All right, this is our interview with Agnete from Mortem. This is a band that has dug deep into my heart. I'm a big fan. I have got a shirt, which unfortunately isn't here yet, but I will wear in a future episode. If you haven't gotten into this band yet, and we were late to the party too, um, their songs are so powerful. Even the lighter ones, like Master Tongue, has that powerful finish that just stays with you. They are rockers. They are fighters. If you haven't seen their documentary, Howl of the Underdog, check that out as well.
Yeah.
But we really enjoyed Matter Mortem, and Agnete is a wonderful peach of a person, and we count her in as a friend of the show.
We saw the documentary on what, Tuba 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 or something? One of these channels. Yeah. Anyway, check it out.
So I have to tell you, Mark introduced me to you guys, and I had gotten in the car after work, and he put On Guard, and it was like this jazz, and I'm kind of a metal chick, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. I am totally flipped. This is one of these albums I wake up and I got to put it on.
Oh,
You know,
thank you so much.
Yeah.
first heard that, I was like, what is this? Burlesque? What is that for me?
I know. I mean, that's kind of the trouble with us sometimes. I mean, we do a lot of different stuff. So which song are you going to choose to represent? You kind of like explain to people what we actually do.
Yeah.
We had
Yeah.
this funny thing with when we released All Flesh is Grass back in the day. That was on Century Media a long, long time ago. And they wanted us to give them like some influences to, they wanted probably to do that sticker thing, on the album cover.
Yeah.
And we gave them an honest answer, which was Faith No More, Arvo Pärt, the Estonian composer, and Dark Throne. And I think they were like, okay, who's going to buy this?
Yeah, they were going to make me go up to Oslo a couple years ago before COVID. And as soon as I saw they were going to do it, I was like, all right, I'm going to go find Finn Rees. That's the first thing I'm doing. No,
Well,
I'm going to drink a couple beers with him.
that would probably be not too difficult to sort out.
Not too difficult, right? Well, it looks like you started out as a brother-sister band in the beginning. Were you a musical family, like part of a musical family?
I don't know. I think not like the Kelly family, but my mom is quite musical and always loved singing and playing. And my dad was a huge music fan. I mean, never as a musician, but as a listener. So we grew up with a lot of music around us and a lot of support for joining the school band or playing piano or picking up instruments.
Yeah.
So I guess the short answer is yes. I think it was we were very fortunate in having parents that were very interested in culture generally and just a lot of books, a lot of music around.
Your father's personality really comes through in the documentary. I mean, he's a character, really. Yeah.
He was very much a character. He was always playing music a lot louder than me and BP ever did.
Okay.
It was kind of reversed. I would tell him to turn it down.
That's funny. Yeah.
So originally you were the Mystery Tribe. What kind of spurred the name change to Matter Mortem, and where did it come from?
Well, we found there was another band called Mystery Tribe, and they were older than us and had released a CD. So we figured, oh shit. And it's kind of when you're 16, 17, you're trying to come up with a cool name for your band. It's often, the dictionary and just sweeping through it. So it ended up with being Matter, which is a dark red color. And I think it came from one of my dad's color charts actually, because it was painting.
Okay.
And then Mortem for death, and the idea of like this contrast thing, red and black, passion and silence, life and death. So it's a strange name, and a lot of people have misspelled it horribly over the years.
Do you ever get rigor mortis? They're like, no, it's not that.
Right.
No, but we have gotten Mother Mortem quite a lot, and Mother Morten. Morten is a Norwegian boy's name. So yeah, we've regretted it sometimes, but by now it's just too ingrained, I guess.
Yeah. That's a pretty good name to choose for being a teenager. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty well chosen name for that age. I
Could have,
can't imagine what I would have picked at that age, you know.
it could have been a lot worse. And this is Christian, my boyfriend, by the way. He's just hanging around. uh, it could have been worse. Like I had a website that I called Mephisto's Rose. So we
Wow.
could have been stuck with that for 20, 30 years. That would have been worse, I think.
Oh, that's funny.
You know, we interviewed Don from Nunslaughter, and you figured Nunslaughter is a pretty obvious name. He said one time somebody asked him, was it Nun's Laughter? I was like, okay,
you
no,
believe
no,
that?
no. How could you muck that up?
I
like
never
that?
saw that in the name. Yeah. Wow.
Oh, I mean, I've been thinking of the first tour we ever did was, among others, with Rotten Christ. And I'm thinking that we've had it easy with our band name. I think
No.
running around with Rotten Christ as a name gets you banned from quite a few posters, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're really
Or
nice
if-
people.
Or if you're a band with the F word in the title, I think you're pretty much you're never going to be on FM radio at that point.
Yeah,
But,
yes.
never say never. But yeah. Yeah.
Well, I do not think there is another band that has a sound like Madame Mortem. I was so glad I heard that in the documentary because I already thought about it. It's kind of, with that jangly thing going on, and you can sound anything like a non-bitchy Chrissy Hines to, to Sharon from Within Temptation, depending on like the song. So it's so varied. But as soon as I hear it now, I know it's you guys. This guy was the architect of kind of all those off-time signatures, and I love it.
I don't know. I think we just grew into that. I think like one of the main things about us is that we've always kind of tried to just follow the ideas we have. And I think the whole band has quite a broad frame of musical references. We listen to a lot of different music, from modern classical stuff to country to black metal. I mean, everything. And then I don't know, we just from like quite early on, we focused more and more on writing as a group, and trying to write everybody, like 5 people in a room working on things together. So we just end up doing what we like, and apparently what we like is a little bit weird. Maybe. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's I think it's been important to us that it's not supposed to be weird for weird's sake. It only ends up being like weird time signatures or sudden changes. It happens when we feel it's right for the song. And sometimes, I mean, like On Guard is like the complete opposite end of that spectrum, which just felt right for that song, just keeping it as plain and simple as possible,
Yeah.
So it depends on the idea. But I mean, growing up, one of my favorite bands was Faith No More. And we listened to a bit of, we grew up with kind of like technical death metal, like Death and Cynic and stuff like that. So you have some influences from that. And then from like Scandinavian progressive rock as well, like Anecdotes and Landberg and that sort of stuff. So it just melts into, hey, this is cool. Oh, it's 7. Yeah.
I had such a crush on Agnete from The Gathering for just years, I would write a review and I would write like what she was wearing in the video, it's a little borderline creepy. Yeah.
she's a great singer though.
Yeah.
And I think it's been so nice to see how well she's been doing with her solo stuff as well.
Yeah.
So kudos.
Yes. Now, would you consider the band a gothic band? I'm sure you've been called that many times.
I mean, there are some elements where I can see it, like the gloominess and the being miserable bastards singing about sad stuff all the time,
Right. But not vampire so much,
Not so much the vampire thing. And I think from the get-go, we kind of felt out of place with the whole gothic thing. Because, I mean, we grew up with like Metallica and Sepultura and started playing in bands with, cargo shorts and hoodies.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That was where we came from. And then the whole gothic thingy started coming in the 90s. And you ended up with this idea of the Beauty and the Beast thing. I don't know, the Gothic bands were all like ladies in corsets doing this kind of wavy army thing, which I never felt at home with, to be honest. There's quite a lot of, I enjoy the goth scene, and there's quite a lot of Gothic music that I enjoy, but I don't know. We've never been able to find a good label to kind of nest ourselves under.
Understood. Yeah.
We've tried different, we tried brute pop at some point, which obviously wasn't very popular. I think we've landed on, it makes sense to call it some kind of progressive, especially with what the progressive scene is, at least in Europe now, which seems to be just a common term for a lot of bands that just explore different avenues in their music.
Yeah.
So I can live with that, and I can also see that this makes sense that there's some kind of doom in this.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to make us play fast.
That's funny.
But there's so much emotion, you know, in your delivery. There are times I'm like, she is like a gothy Karen Carpenter. It's so smooth, but then you can come in hard too. It really won me over as far as, you know, wow, you know. Did you have any formal training to achieve that beautiful smoothness?
Well, thank you very much. I don't know if you heard Kristen laughing over here, but he has such a crush on Karen Carpenter.
Wow. I'm glad we got it right. Good.
No, but I did have a little bit of formal training because we went to music school for, I guess, what you would call high school.
Okay.
Like those years where you can choose to do music instead of the ordinary run. And there was some formal training, but I kind of tried to put it away a bit, because usually when you go into some kind of formal singing training, they want to mold you into this classical ideal of how to do things. And that kind of takes away a bit of your personality. So, but you get some technique and some ways of, you learn how to take care of your voice. But I've been very fortunate. I have a voice that takes a lot of beating. I can mistreat it quite badly, and it thrives on it. And also I've had this opportunity of, you know, having a band that's your own and having the possibility of writing. I mean, you're writing your own music, you're writing your own lines. And especially since we started producing our own albums, you have the time in the studio to really focus on trying to find your own voice.
Yeah.
So it took a long time before I felt confident as a singer and started thinking of myself as a good singer. Like 3 or 4 albums in, maybe. By now I feel I know what I'm doing, you know. But there was I always had a lot of force and always had a lot of expression, and then it took some years to just kind of get some reins on that and get the nuances more in place. But it's I don't know, I think for me it just comes from the heart. If you know what you're feeling, then you just have to keep on picking on the sound of what you're doing until it kind of most directly conveys the feeling you want to get across. And then you have to mean it as well, I think.
Do you have a pre-show vocal warm-up routine? Like, how do you warm your voice up?
I run stairs.
Really?
I mean, there are two like theoretical lines on this. Some do like a long session of vocal warm-ups, and others argue that the vocal cords, the muscles are so small. So if you do, you really have the blow flow going. Okay. But for me, it's like if I get my body warm and my pulse up, and then a little bit of stretching, then I'm usually good to go.
Gotcha. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, we haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, I like it though. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah,
it does, because it's more about the breathing apparatus than the vocal cords are very tiny. So if you're doing all the work there, you'll be exhausted. You have to do it from the diaphragm and all the way up. So if everything else is up working, then you're usually home free. Or I am, at least.
How did you arrive at the title for this one, for Old Eyes, New Heart, and kind of what is the significance?
Well, it's a quote actually from one of the songs on our album Red in Tooth and Claw. We like to do this little Easter egg things where you kind of pull some lines from an album and weave them into the next one. But I think first of all, we needed a title that started with O.
Okay.
If you go back and look at the first letter of all our albums, we're spelling Mortem.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Like sigh.
Wow.
Like the
Yeah.
sigh. Yeah.
Except we have a very long band name.
So you'll be 17 albums in, and before you get to the end, whatever. Yeah.
Or I kind of dream about doing it all the way up until the last, what should be the last in that series, and just go with a completely different letter. So if
Okay.
you're a record collector, you'll have Mortem. It would be like a joke, like 30, 40 years in the making. That would be.
We'll have all your fans will be incensed. What is this P? Yeah.
Maybe start the last one with an exclamation point, you know?
That's a very
Yeah.
good idea.
Starting, yeah. How are you gonna get that title though? You know, that starts with an exclamation point. Yeah.
Happen.
No,
It's gonna
to be
challenging.
a bit, to get back to it. Well, there was such a lot of. There's been such a lot of going on in our lives lately. It's such a lot of huge changes in both positive and negative ways. And I think that was a little bit of the feeling behind that title, is that, we are getting old is wrong, but, we are getting to be veterans. We're very much grown up. And you get to a point in your life where, first of all, you realize that your time is finite, and you have to start realizing that there are things you will never do. There are things that you won't have the time for, and opportunities that you have missed. And you also, most of us will have encountered enough, I don't know, betrayal, deceit, disappointment, that you learn to put up some defenses. You learn to be a bit more skeptical and look twice before you accept things. All that glimmers is not gold,
Right.
and so on. But at the same time, it's a bit of a cliche, but the absence of change is, in essence, death. Everything that is alive is by nature chaotic and changing and ever changing. And I think if you let the old skeptical eyes take too much of a place, or if you let them grow too much on you, you will start missing out again, because you need a little bit of a new heart. Be open for new possibilities, to still be able to give trust, and, I don't know, let people in some ways.
Yeah.
So in a weird way, I think that's where we are. We are, horrible word, but middle-aged. So and being in a band, you're sort of a middle-aged teenager, which is a very weird place to be,
Yeah.
But it is a point of, I don't know, I think you have to decide what you want to keep in your life and what you want to lose, and what you want to, these things have to go, and I want these things into my life.
I can totally understand that. We met in high school and we're together and fell apart. And we both went through 33 years apart, miserable relationships. He was in, an emotionally abusive. I was in a physically abusive, just horrible. And then when we finally re-met, we were like, we had it from the beginning and we didn't know it, So
I was 15.
But, it's like,
She was a bit of a cradle robber. I was 15.
I won't tell anyone.
Don't tell anyone. No one will ever know.
Yeah.
I can totally get that. And so many of your songs have touched me in so many ways as far as that, and I think even when we first got back together, we were even a little skeptical, you
Yeah.
know,
But it was
to
so
trust.
different. It was so different. Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, I think that's it's been kind of fun with this album because I've been getting quite a lot of feedback that people feel they can relate to the lyrics a lot. And I think that's probably because they are about things like that, you know? I think everybody has to face these kind of issues, you know. Where should you put your trust? Where should you put your heart? And what happens when you place your trust where it shouldn't have been, you know, when you
Yeah,
are
right.
deceived or when you are disappointed, and it's it just happens to everybody,
Yes.
I think.
Oh yeah.
But congratulations, that's a really, really sweet story, though.
It is.
We both have the number 33 tattooed somewhere just to kind
Yeah.
of commemorate.
Yeah. So it sounds like you guys are in a place right now where the album comes through. You've been doing it long enough that I can't imagine that you're saying, "Oh, it wasn't heavy enough," or "This wasn't. We should have done this." It sounds like you just kind of create each song together, and then when the songs are done, you, if you don't like it, you don't like it. You know, I think that's great. You know, it takes a while to get to that point.
I think, I mean, maybe when we've been fortunate in some ways, if you're thinking like how much we care about the world outside and what they think.
Right. Right.
Because I mean, we grew up, this is really countryside, you know, where I live, and where me and B comes from. And it meant that you didn't have like a scene. Well, you had a scene for everybody who liked playing music.
Right.
And if you actually wanted to play, you had to play punk and metal and country and everything. And so we didn't really have this. I think big city bands have this pressure of like fitting into scenes and kind.
Right.
We've always been just the weirdos, you know, the four people who had long hair and black clothes and stuff.
Okay.
But in some ways it works because it wasn't a hostile sense of people think we are weird. It was just like, oh, it's those guys. They do this weird metal thing and all the noise, but they're nice
Okay.
people, you know. So I think that was a bit of a defense. And we've just been, I don't know, we've just been making, always been making just what we feel like.
Right. So you've always just kind of done with you going with your gut with the music. I think that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think if we hadn't, I don't think we would be a band anymore because I
I mean,
think,
you have to like it. You have to
yeah,
love it. It has to make you happy. That's the thing, you know. So
I thought about it. We rehearsed today, and we're like rehearsing for the Inferno gig coming up. And we tried to sometimes like bring some of the older songs, and we were playing like Necro from Deadlands, and it was released in 2002, so it's like 22 years ago. And if you're gonna keep rehearsing the same songs for 22 years, you better like them. You know?
yeah, well, I guess yeah, you're forced to like them almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You kind of go through phases where you hate them for a little while and then you go back to okay, it's kind of okay.
We interviewed the guy from what's it, Zentrix, and one of
Yeah.
the things that they did early on was that Ghostbusters song, and you could
The
just
cover.
cover of Ghostbusters. And at the time when they were teenagers, they said it seemed like the best idea, and they hate it now.
They're
'Cause
stuck with
they're
it.
stuck with it, you know. That's what we're talking about, you know. You better be ready to own it, you know. Mhm.
I remember also we toured with Opeth back in 2003. And you know, that was just when Opeth were in this phase of really growing huge. And
Huge, yes. I remember that.
Damnation came out while we were on tour with them. And they were moving in the progressive direction, right? So it was kind of funny to see the old fans and the new fans, because you would have the old Opeth fans in the crowd going, Demon of the Fall, make him do some death vocals. And you could almost see Michael just, oh, do I have to? You know, I can
Yeah.
imagine they also have some of these issues. I mean, any
Mhm.
band who lives a long time will have a little bit of, you will always have the old time fans who want to hear what they came into, you know?
Yeah.
And you usually want to play your newer songs because it's more fun.
Yeah. You have to do what makes you happy as an artist. And then if
Yeah.
some will get it and some will not. Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
we certainly had a lot of favorite tracks on this album. Here and Now.
All right. I have to ask you about Here and
was
Now.
amazing. I think I cried after I really got it.
Okay. So your vocals remind me of, I can't say her name right, Jeanette Neapolitano from Concrete Blonde.
Yeah.
I always say her name wrong. Remind me a lot of her in that song. And I just love the way the guitar kind of slides up the scale during the verse. And the drum beat, that drum beat, did you guys start with that drum beat, or did he kind of back into it later when you were putting that song together? Because it's very unusual.
I think the song started with the guitar for the verse,
Okay,
you know,
right,
the acoustic
right.
guitar, and that is actually Mats's idea, the drummer. It's his guitar idea.
Okay, yeah.
So I think it started out with that, and it's sometimes hard to remember because you work on them for a long, long time, and we
Right,
often
right.
try out loads of different arrangements. But I think that was when that song really clicked into place, was when he started trying out that kind of groove.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think it changed it from something a little more, it could have been a very slow song, but that little dancey vibe there, just, I think it made
Little-
wonders.
A little giddy up. It added a little giddy
Yeah,
up.
a little giddy up, yeah.
Yeah,
That kind of makes
yeah.
sense. Sorry,
And the lyrics,
Sorry.
sure. The lyrics are so specific and so vague at the same time. It's like, push me away when you really need me closer, pull me close and ask me to leave. It sounds like an exhausting relationship.
Yeah,
Is
it
that
was.
what you were going for, or?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's a very, it was very exhausting. And I think a lot of people will have had experience with those kinds of, what should you call it, an almost relationships,
Mhm.
where the push pull push pull push pull, where you can never
Yeah.
be certain what's actually going on and what the other person is feeling.
Yeah.
And every time you try to step away, like kind of come and pull you back in a little bit. And it's a very unhealthy dynamic, I think. And I'm not good at that sort of stuff. I mean, in some ways, I'm a person who kind of wears my heart on my sleeve a lot, and tends to. I'm usually all in or nothing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is a very bad match with somebody who's always on the fence.
Yeah.
So that's basically where the song is at.
Someone once said to me, just because someone doesn't love you the way you want doesn't mean they don't love you.
No.
And I said, I 100% disagree with that. I mean, I don't even know where to start.
I had a boyfriend who would say to me all the time, I know you think that I don't love you, but I do. And I'm like, are you listening to yourself? If you have to say that,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
if you know that
We've
I
both
think
been
that you
through a
don't,
lot of
that's a
that.
problem.
You have to call it out like that, you know. So,
Horrible.
so I forgot your birthday 12 times. So I forgot our anniversary 13 times. How long are you going to keep score, you know?
I think we should turn this into maybe kind of like a relationship, sort of what was Dear Abby.
We'll get some callers. Callers,
Yeah.
line 3. Yeah.
That would be awesome. No, but you know, it is like, I mean, and I think that's what sort of musically works as well, because there is some kind of ambiguity in the music of that song.
Yeah.
It's a little bit dancey to and from, and always kind of vague. And then I feel like the middle part just, that's when it stops being big. And I think it was really efficient to say it like
It's a
that.
great
I mean,
chorus. It's such a great chorus. It really
I
is.
think
Yeah,
it
when it
worked.
pops in.
Really is.
And then on Guard, which at first, when he first wrote that up for me, all I could hear was that Black Velvet song, you know, with that about Elvis. And I was like, oh, I don't like that. But when you came in, I'm like, hold on, this is different. So yeah, it really won me
So
over.
we have 2 shows. Okay.
Yeah.
One show is all Black and Death and grind, right?
Yeah.
And then the next week we go back to rock and roll. And whenever we switch from the heavy to rock and roll, she always is like, this isn't heavy enough. I've noticed this. It doesn't matter what it is. I could play Motorhead for her and she'd be like, what is this? You know, so
I take it
she has
back.
to
though.
adjust
But,
to the rock
you
and
know,
roll. Yeah.
once I got through it, I was like, no, this is powerful, you know? I really the slide guitar, and I think it was a previous band member, Richard Wilkstrand, used. How did you come to work with him again?
I mean, we've always said like close friends with everybody we've ever played with. It was in 2019 we did an anniversary show for the first album, and then we had all the previous members on stage. Every lineup played some songs from their lineup, and then we did one song together, everybody. So that was kind of a bit of a moment, you know.
Wow.
But Richards lives not too far away, and I mean, he uses BP's the sound engineer for his new band, so we keep in touch a lot. And we really wanted to show off. We're not a band that's big on guitar solos, you know.
I noticed that. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
And we played with Richard for several years, and he never really got the opportunity to show off his skills because he's an amazing solo guitarist.
Okay.
And we figured that this song actually would really be cool with a slide solo, and he's better than most with a slide guitar, I have to say. We did it live with him for the release party last month. It's really cool. He's a really good guy, and he's such a great guitarist, so it was cool to bring him back in. And cheap.
Yeah.
I will say though, I still come back to, I think Tower is my absolute favorite because I'm a total new metal chick. And it's like Evanescence, like punching it. I love it. You know, it's like, are the towers like, it's the kind of that theme where you're putting up walls, isn't it? Kind of what you're saying in that?
Yeah, same kind of thing. I think a little bit of the same kind of topic. I guess the general idea, I think, is sometimes people make defenses for a good reason. I mean, I work with kids, and it sometimes works a little bit the same with kids as well. You start protecting yourself, so you start building these defense mechanisms, but you hold on to them for too long, and they start being less of a defense than something that harms you, because you start being rigid, you start being unable to actually let people in. And I think some people actually need other people's help to be able to break down their own defenses sometimes. So yeah, like this whole idea of, again, a little bit of what we were talking about with like the old heart and the new eyes. It's that one. I mean, if you cannot let your defenses down a little bit, it's impossible to know you. You know, if you want to know somebody, you have to expose a little bit of your inner self to them, I think. And if you cannot like open up a little bit, you cannot really have any meaningful connection with people. There has to be some kind of risk. You have to risk, you know, letting people see you for who you are. And I think we all do that a little bit, like try to avoid, especially like when we meet new people, we try to present our best selves. But I think very often what people end up liking us for is often the things that we are not so proud of, maybe, but like the humanities and the faults and flaws and all the cracks. It's a little bit like vocals editing. If you edit out all the little imperfections, you are left with something that is completely soulless and unemotional. Sorry, but it's a day for big words, apparently.
No, it's okay. I want to ask you about the video. I really like the video.
Oh my God, it's so good.
What was the shoot like for that?
Well, it's we're kind of like, you know, I don't know what the term in English is for this, but you know, this whole idea of local produce, locally sourced, I think.
Right.
And we're kind of a lot about that. The director of the video is another former guitarist. Okay. We're like Spinal Tap, except with guitar players instead of drummers, right?
Oh, okay.
Patrick also lives not so far away, and he's done some video stuff for us before, filming and stuff, and he has his own video company. And he's a really cool, artistic, his brain is just weird. He always had this
in a good way.
ideas, in a really, really good way. So most of it it's shot either in my garden or up at the local rock club, which is just 400 meters from here, with Patrick and his crew and just local help. Just
Okay.
very much do it yourself, but I think it turned out really, really cool.
You did. Yeah.
It did.
And I think
I
it
love, you know,
sorry.
how physical your performances are, you know, even in the documentary, whenever they show you live, you know, it looks like you could possibly, you know, that would be your workout for the day right there.
It is. I mean, a live show is a good workout, to say the least. I don't know, just I mean, obviously there's some element of performing as well, but there's also this, especially with the heaviest vocal parts, it's easier to do right and to make it sound good if you actually let your body just help out a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
Some people have said that it looks like I'm kind of directing the music with hands going in all directions and stuff, but it's more like, I don't know. I usually have like the snare drum often in my fingers, and then I'm stomping with a bass drum for the other foot.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it ended, I had a lot easier time singing when I just learned to just let go and let my body do what felt right with the music.
Yeah.
Standing still is not good for your breathing, you know.
There's a video that came in through my Instagram feed recently, and it's Hetfield, and he's taking a break, and it's from the recent tour, and he sits down, and he's just like, and he gets a drink, and you see off to the corner people holding up things to be signed, and you're like, boo, don't bother him, because he's like practically falling asleep. And I just think, oh, how long can it go on, you know?
Yeah, it's a little bit, you think, but I mean, it's not that long ago that I saw Iron Maiden play live.
Yeah.
And I mean, Dickinson is still holding his own. I mean, how old
Yeah.
is he now? He's 70 maybe?
Yeah.
That guy is, I think he takes his vitamins.
No, I think you're right. I think you're
you know?
right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said for veterans knowing how to get it done. I mean, we've had a slew of, like, from Cirith Ungol to the Quill coming out with new stuff,
Yeah.
still touring, still kicking ass. So I find that so inspirational. That
I mean, Nico's been the drummer for 40 years, and he's not even the original drummer. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
crazy, right? I mean,
and just the physicality of playing drums,
yeah.
like cool drums. I mean, it's a question in my mind as well. I'm very conscious that if I want to keep doing this in the way that I'm doing it now, I have to keep in shape because I'm getting older. And at some point, you know, if you don't actually mind your workouts, you won't be able to physically do it, I think.
I've really admired your physical transformation. I know I'm a curvy girl. I have always struggled. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like this in Norway, but there's so much food pressure here.
It's not like that over there.
It's like,
I'm gonna tell you right now, I know about Norwegian food. You guys don't have what we have. You have a lot of fish, and you have a lot of that. What's the sheep where you eat the eyeball? What's that?
I wouldn't eat that, but yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? What's the name for that?
Malehoved.
ugh.
Like a dialect word for sheep's head, basically. And
Yeah.
it's
So I mean, and the thing is, like, our food culture in America, we've had, you know, Mexican influence, and we've had Asian
Yeah.
influence, and we have, you know, but I know that it's a lot more homogenized up in that part of Scandinavia. So it's you know.
And I think, I mean, this fast food here is quite expensive.
Really?
know,
Okay.
It's cheaper to make your own meal from groceries than buying fast food,
Well, that's healthier. Yeah.
Yeah.
which I think is I think that's a politically willed difference, but I think is a good one.
Okay.
But you mean like food pressure, like on like people wanting to serve you food all the time?
Well, you know, I have learned I have to do certain things to maintain weight. I
Yeah.
can't eat pasta. I try to avoid breads. I
Yeah.
don't eat past 5 p.m. I try to get my workouts in because if I don't, I just, you know, I'm on the scale every day. I'm like, ah, what did I do? You know, and it's so frustrating. It's so much pressure. And then my son got married and they had a very late rehearsal dinner. And I didn't want to eat. we were done eating for the day, but nobody can seem to accept that you're at a social event and you don't want to eat.
Yeah.
Like everybody kept saying, why don't you
Well,
order something? Why
Well,
don't
the people,
you get
and the people
something?
she works with are like that too. They're always ordering out, and they can't understand why she won't eat the fast food and stuff like that. Yeah,
Oh.
there is.
I mean, that is so difficult for everybody, I think, who struggles with weight. I mean, all this commenting on other people's eating habits, asking or offering all the time. My workplace, there's always candy all over the place.
Yeah.
Like always some kind of crackers or candy, because you get that, afternoon little dip where you're really tired and
Yeah,
everyone wants a sugar fix, right?
Right.
But that is so difficult if you're actually trying to not eat so much.
Yeah.
And then the genetic component of overweight as well, the difference between different people's metabolisms and how they work
Yeah.
is so huge. I mean, for me, before I did the surgery, I was living quite healthily. I mean, I was working out quite a lot, always been eating mostly like homemade decent stuff,
Yeah.
not that bad, but nothing ever worked, except
feel
when
you.
really when I was really ill with an eating disorder, then I lost weight, but that was really bad for me as well, So I've been fortunate to kind of that I had the possibility to do that, and it's worked for me, and I've had very little side effects or very little trouble, but I've been quite strict as well, about following the advice I got us. And I'm so glad I did it, because it was, I don't think I would have ever been able to get to where I am now. And just having this, I mean, maybe the psychological side of this is most important, coming to a place where I don't feel embarrassed by being physical, by being active, because I've always felt that, people looking at you would, oh, that's the fat girl doing jumping and stuff. And so you start avoiding those things, and you avoid such a lot of things. There was such a lot of things I wouldn't do or couldn't do even because I was too heavy or it would be too hard on my knees. And so I'm really happy I did that.
Yeah, you look absolutely great. You could tell in the video for the towers, your arms have such tone, and it's just amazing.
I've been working out a lot.
Well, it's the age of Instagram. We're all stuck in it, So
Yeah.
Filters and stuff.
I will tell you also, when you get to a certain age, the doctors get very opportunistic.
Oh God.
You go to see them and you say, look, I run 4 miles a day. I do this, I do that. And they go, interesting. We're going to run the test anyway. I saw your birthday.
Yeah.
So it happens, to all of us,
I mean,
And
there's a point to it as well, because before I did the surgery, I mean, I was a quite healthy big girl, but you get to a certain age and then the cholesterol starts going up, the diabetes markers are coming on, the blood pressure is rising. And so I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity to do this. And I think there needs to be a change in how people see overweight.
Yes.
I mean, all of us have it. Like, we'll be watching a show at night and I'll be like, look at his abs. That's what I want. And she'll go, he's 19.
Or I'll be watching
Yeah.
some show on TV where everybody's like this thin. I'm like, let's
Yeah.
see that thin.
Let's have some realism here.
But it's not for everybody. It's not going to work for everybody's frame. It's not going to work for everybody's genetics. It's just not.
It's not. And I think I mean, I'm also glad that I grew up before social media, because I work at a junior high school. And I mean, ooh, yes, please. Somebody's offering me coffee. That's my, I get getting coffee.
That's never a bad thing.
No, never a bad thing.
Especially in this house either.
No, but I see the kids at school, and I mean, that kind of pressure on everything. I mean, you have these girls coming into school and their makeup. I imagine they would spend an hour, just this perfect makeup face, and it's a crazy way of looking and thinking everything's so goddamn superficial, and everything is just about looking nice in pictures. And goddamn it, I mean, making sure your body is healthy and making sure that your body can come with you to do the things you want to do. That's a really good thing, you know. That perspective is good. But I mean, bathing suit pictures for Instagram, nah. There are more interesting things in life than looking good in pictures, I think.
Yeah.
And kids are so mean. The comments and stuff, they're just so mean. It's awful.
They
Yeah.
can be, trolls behind a keyboard are so brave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also a consequence of being able to like having that distance. Where you never have to actually face people and you can just
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to
Some of
see the
the-
reaction.
and some of the things people will say to other people is, I kind of want to be like, this was what this one Eddie Murphy show where he's talking about how his mom would correct him with flipping the shoe at him. I want to be those people's mom and just behave.
Yeah, I had a teacher that would just hit me with an eraser if I was falling asleep. And I'd be like, well, what? I mean, that's a long time ago.
That's a long time ago. We're not supposed to do that anymore.
No, it's not supposed. It was very effective though. It
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I
All right.
I have dripped a little bit of water on sleeping students sometimes.
Oh, okay.
Because
That's a lot more genteel.
It's smoother, but they wake up.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
So we play a game on the show.
Oh.
It's 5 random questions with Stace. That's me.
Yeah.
So I have 100 questions in front of me. I want you to pick 5. So you're going to give me 5 numbers to choose from.
Okay, 42. I will have a 6 because it's the number of the beast and so on. 76, which is my birth year. I'll have 13. Old school, and 99.
Okay.
I will admit I'm older than you.
Okay.
We won't say my birth year. All right. 42. In a zombie apocalypse, what weapon would you make from your household items?
Ooh, how household does it have to be?
Just stuff you have around the house or in the shed.
Okay, because I do have a sledgehammer.
Ooh.
So you don't have to modify that at all.
So I would go for a sledgehammer or an axe. Or maybe I could use my didgeridoo.
You have a didgeridoo. Wow,
I have a
that's cool.
didgeridoo. It's hanging behind me there.
Oh, look at that. Okay, wow. That's great.
You could shoot darts out of it.
Yeah, you could shoot darts or maybe potatoes, like a potato gun, and you could hit them with it. And play some meditative music when you're done. I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
Number 6. What would we find on top of your refrigerator?
Well, on top of my refrigerator at the moment, I think there's just a tray for like cheeses and stuff.
Okay.
And dust.
And dust, yeah.
I don't know why we seem to always have junk up there. Then I forget where it is. It's on top of the fridge. 76. Do you prefer texting or talking?
I said, with my closest, I prefer talking. With everybody else, texting.
I agree. It depends on who it is.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
I
just,
think you're like, why are you talking to me? Just text me like a normal person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
13. What is the worst job you ever had?
Oh, I think that was definitely. I've had a lot of weird jobs, but I think the worst one was from this market research company. And it wasn't only, it wasn't the usual call people and ask them questions. It was call people and try to convince them to commit to fill out 100 question or so questionnaire every month.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah. And then sometimes you would call somebody who had done this before and they were very, very angry. With horrible.
How long did you work there?
A couple of months. That
A
was
couple months.
Yeah. That was more than enough.
That's terrible. Yeah.
I've had a telemarketing job trying to get people to buy funeral plots. I hated it. I think I didn't last there very long.
Are you kidding? Is that
No.
actually telemarketing for funeral plots?
Well, they had like a thing where we would do a survey, and if they had been in the area so long and they were married, then we would call them up and tell them they had been selected for one plot. And of course, if they're married, they wanted two. So that was the whole, it was so scrungy. I hated it.
It's like you qualify for one shoe. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But these are the things that you kind of meet when you're getting to be grown up. We had to think about this when Dad was going to be buried, because if me and BP wanted to be around the same place, we had to book it now.
Yes.
And we're like, okay, so we have this kind of booked like bunk bed kind of version.
Okay. Yeah.
If we want it, we can kind of like go on that and be stacked on top of each other or something. It's
Yeah.
kind of macabre, but at least we have options.
Well, it fits with the black metal, sort of.
Yeah, it does.
Very death oriented,
We can make it cult.
Yeah.
All right, last one, 99. How would your parents describe your personality?
I think we saw that on the video, but okay.
I think so. And my mom, she's still alive, and I'm not sure if she's ever kind of put to rest the idea that I'm a Satanist, which I'm obviously not, but she worries a bit.
Nitpicking, come on.
Yeah. I don't know how to describe my personality. A little bit of an overachiever at times, and what would I say? I think they would say that I'm usually quite bright and sunny, except when I'm not.
Except when you're not. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sensing extremes here.
Yeah.
A little bit, I think. I think actually you gave me a compliment about like the emotional content of the singing, and I think that's a little bit, I think that's a part of it, because I am in some ways a person who has a very big range of emotions. I mean, my lows are very low and my highs are very high, but I think it makes it easier to put emotion into music as well, because when you experience things very intensely, it's more distilled and it's maybe easier to understand and communicate, I think.
Yeah.
This is grown up me talking. When I was a teenager, I couldn't understand shit. I was just
So you guys have a Infernal Metal Festival coming up in March.
Yeah.
What are you most looking forward to checking out while you're there?
Oh, for me, there's a couple of things. I mean, there's Cynic, one of my like I mean, they were one of the big bands when we were growing up. And
who's playing drums for Cynic now? Because he died.
Sure. I can't remember. I've read it somewhere.
Yeah,
I
can't remember.
Just before we started the interview, I was talking to, I know their sound engineer. He's just like leaving to go on that tour now. And I don't know, the Focus album was so big. That was back in the day when, you didn't have Spotify, where you had 5 albums that you would listen to all the time and everybody would pass them around. So that was one of our like legendary albums. So I'm really looking forward to that.
And some people liked the vocoder and some people didn't like it. Like it was very that effect. Like some people
It's weird.
It's really weird, yeah.
The combination of the vocoder and also all the Chapman stick playing, which is so unusual.
Yeah, really unusual. Yeah.
But I don't know. I just like this whole like it's weird to be playing like that metal stuff, and it's so dreamy at the same time, and it's well executed. So it was just something different. I don't know. Yeah. So Cynic, I was thinking, what else was I going to see? I want to see Joe Quayle, obviously. Okay. And we were talking about watching Cold, because I think that could be like I've never seen them live. I think it would be a cool experience. And maybe Hexvessel. I just can't remember everything that's on the bill.
Oh, so much.
Big show, yeah.
I've been there. I mean, I usually always, when I was living in Oslo, I would always be at Inferno, because for anybody in the business, it's a big, hobnobbing, networking thing as well. And it was always a good party scene. I would used to have these infamous Inferno Nachspiels after parties. I think the record was something like 60 people in my apartment or something like that. And I would always cook at like 4 a.m. in the morning. So pasta and stuff.
Oh, that sounds great.
But nowadays, I think I'm just gonna watch some concerts and maybe go home, a little bit crazier. But there used to be always this. I mean, I really, really love black metal, for instance, but not as a general concept. I love specific things in specific bands. And sometimes Inferno would be like, you would have 4 hours of,
Yeah.
and if you had like 3 or 4 bands in a row with slightly crappy playing and not so good sound, it would just like all sound like one song, the Inferno song,
Yeah.
I remember especially this one year when it was like band after band, I was like, and then finally Morbid Angel came on, which was like, oh, yes, please.
This band doesn't suck at all.
Yeah, this band doesn't suck at all. This actually sounds good too. Amazing. Yeah, but I think Scenic is like the one thing that I'm most looking forward to. And I'm actually also really looking forward to hearing Wall, the band that's playing with us on that label showcase.
Okay.
They've just been nominated for a Norwegian Grammy, and it's kind of like doomy, gloomy. I think that's going to be really cool. And I'm also doing guest appearance with a band called Terminal. It's like an industrial kind of soundscapey thing that I did vocals for one song on their album, so I'm going to do the same song.
Awesome.
That's great.
On Sunday.
That's great.
So any chance of getting you guys ever here to the US?
I mean, it's a big dream of ours. It's always been, but the problem is obviously the cost. So it's like, if we ever, the big hope would be to kind of get an offer from some kind of festival, and we can like attach some gigs with that,
Yeah.
But none of us are convicted felons, so we probably would get visas.
It's not easy. I've heard so many scary stories about that process,
Yeah, but it helps if you're not a criminal,
Well, I would think yes.
So it's much easier when you're not a black metal band.
When you haven't been burning churches, yes.
Yes. In short, no.
That tends to make it difficult.
It tends to make a lot of things difficult, Or being above, I think, tends to make things difficult.
Although I do think he probably makes more than most in the genre in terms of actual money,
Oh, he does. But
yeah, I would think,
I think I kind of know his tour manager a little bit, and that's a job I wouldn't take.
Yeah. No, I
think he can be a handful.
Well, thank you for doing this.
And thank you for this album.
Yes.
We're listening to it this morning cooking breakfast, though.
We were. Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time as well, and for all the lovely things you said.
This is the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast.